Alright, this is the disciplinary system. And I am referring to it as part of my complaints to the sheriff's office. I find that to be important to refer to, because just making blanket complaints doesn't seem like it would have as much of an impact. Just general complaints about how I feel doesn't make as much of an impact as much as learning what their system is like a little bit, and then referring to this policy on discipline. I had to ask for this, and they just didn't send it to me over email. I only had to ask about 10 times for their policy over the course of 3 weeks. That's just how they work. That's how government works. I highlighted some things that I felt were important. Not all of them are added into the complaint. But I read this thoroughly and came up with my conclusions, and I'd like to share them with everyone. I got all these subject to level 4s, subject to level 1, all the way to 5, which is termination. And the complaints I have are definitely subject to levels. And you can see this is just a big amount of information about discipline that's interesting to read. I copied it by voice. I actually spoke out the words to copy, because I was given a paper copy. So I was given a paper copy, and then I spoke it on voice. Some typing. Took a little bit of time, but I recorded it. And my complaints are that, and I labeled them as severe, from non-severe to severe, subject to level 1 to all the way to level 5. So we'll start out with the lesser. This is 8 complaints. And I start out here with courtesy. Employees shall be polite and courteous in context with the public and with other employees. And I will complain that they were talking over me. All 3 of them were just talking over me. I couldn't just hardly say a word, because they just wouldn't. And then they tell me I wasn't listening to them as they were talking over me. Waking me up, making me walk 4 miles back. This is not courteous behavior. I don't know who accepts it. I don't, certainly, so I stand for myself at least. Telling me I'm not listening, which only involved demanding ID, and it also involves them not listening to me. Alright, complaint number 2. Citizen complaint to be... Oh, this isn't exactly a complaint. This is like a warning about the person who does take my complaint, the sheriff, who could get who could be subject to level 2 if he doesn't receive the complaint. So this is a bit of a warning as a part of their own policy. Alright, complaint number 3. Name to be given upon request. Employees shall give their last name and rank or position in a respectful and courteous manner in which person requesting such identification while on duty or in uniform or when otherwise recognized as a member of the sheriff's office unless engaged in covert duties. However, if in a specific instance an employee believes that this information is likely to be used in a malicious manner, the employee may choose to not give this information. Well, you can hear on camera that Deputy Weldon right off the bat said that he didn't have to give his name. Deputy Kane, right off the bat, said they don't have to give their name. Alright, so they're kind of warning, they're giving a pre-warning that they don't have to give their name, and they're warning about this malicious manner thing. Okay, so they only have split seconds to decide if they're giving their names towards a malicious manner thing. Now, malicious manner, I don't know. I mean, what is that about? Like, that's not explained. It's just kind of said. And I don't think that's right. Because how do we identify the cop that we want to complain about? It's like they can withhold, and how do we even know if they're a real cop? If just a random citizen knows this information, they could dress up as a cop and practice the same thing. I mean, there's people who pretend to be cops, and this sheriff's office is supporting that. They're not separating, they're not causing the divide, the separation that they need between private security and public deputies. They're kind of encouraging private security people to pretend to be like public cops to carry on with their business and allowing random occurrences where people may be led to believe that an actual officer incident occurred. So I'm complaining about this. Weldon didn't offer his name. He told me he didn't have his ID. He didn't have to ID himself, but I do. I get arrested over my ID, and he's telling me that he don't have to ID. It's just amazing how they can have be so hypocritical. And the public allows this. I mean, they voted that sheriff in. The Sheriff Ryan Norman, approved this policy. Right here, this policy. He just approved it on January 2024. And people voted him in. People voted in this policy that Ryan Norman approves. Alright? So, the majority of the people have spoken. They believe the cops don't have to identify themselves. Alright, that's the majority of the voters in McCracken County. So now I'm just fighting it. I mean, that's all I can do as an individual. I'm the minority fighting this rule, this political move that the majority of people have made. Employees who damage office property with malice shall be held accountable. Look at that. They'll punish the employees for damaging the sheriff's sheriff's property. Alright, the office property is the sheriff's property. Includes cars and office equipment, whatever the tools that they use. But they're okay, there's no policy against breaking the citizens' property. I mean, they'll subject themselves to a level 3. What's a level 3 again? Let's look at that. Whoops. Discipline policy. Now I kind of highlighted it, so I'm just going to zero in on a level 3, damaging my phone, cracking the lens on my phone. If it happened to their own people, they get 4 to 10 days or 11 to 20 days suspension. There's a range 4 to 20. Alright, it's level 3. But if it's my stuff, no problem. We're not going to even mention that in our policy. That's not important. It's what's more important is the sheriff's stuff. And this is, I mean, once again, the sheriff approved of this. No mention of breaking citizen stuff. Sheriff Ryan Norman approved of this by signing off after reading the policies and agreed to just this level of activity that this discipline that the cops are following. Let's see. So it's not the cops. Level 4 is where the cops face a demotion, reduction, or dismissal. Start facing it. And I'm on level 3 with my complaint. Alright, that was damage. That's level 3. Here we jump into level 4. Excessive or unnecessary force not resulting in injury. Alright, they cuffed me over my name, which was spoken on the radio. Employees shall use only the enough force necessary. This is their policy. Subject to level 4, excessive force. They should also, I think the force continues all the way through until I'm back to my car. I mean, taken to jail in this cold weather, late at nights, they wake me up. I mean, there's the initial force of being forced to jail, and then the hardship continues back to my car. I think that force continues. I mean, just because I wasn't in their custody, I was still under the spell of the encounter by having to return to my car, and then just the general spell of having to go to court and all of that too. It's the force that they're applying to me is for this being parked in the church parking lot is just insane. I mean, the voters have spoken, though. You vote in the sheriff, and he approves of this. Let's see, untruthfulness. Let's see, employees shall speak truthfully, shall not knowingly make false or untrue statements except as authorized in the performance of duties and as necessary to maintain covert operations or investigations of criminal activities. So they lied about requiring ID because it's not a stop and ID state, and then they respect the stop and ID states that it's not a stop and ID state by saying that they don't have to give their name. It's like rules for thee but not for me. They lied about a contract with the church. There is no such thing. There's just like some emails where the information has been redacted about these emails. What is Craig Newburn hiding exactly? I still haven't seen unredacted information from that. They're just going to hide the evidence all the way to my trial? They lied about the parked cars being a traffic stop. My car was not pulled over, yet they were treating me like I was pulled over for speeding or something. How do you pull over a parked car for speeding? Or for running a stop sign in a private property, on private property. They're treating me like I was on a public street while I was on private property. They turned their body cams on late and muted audio. I mean, that's untruthfulness. All right, muting audio in the encounter, turning on body cam late. That's complete untruthfulness. I think that falls under that category. I think that's complainable, a complainable complaint. Particularly when Burrow started talking about the lackluster video, and instantly Kane was you can hear Kane's hands quickly reach up to mute his body cam. As soon as lackluster was mentioned, it was Kane moving to mute his body cam. You know, he knew he already recorded just a little bit of what was to come of their conversation about their collusion and their political issues. And that's where I go on to harassment, because I think the situation got bad because of political bias that just recently happened. This is recent memory. Are they as upset now as they were back then? All right, they're not working on a let's say like third party basis. They're acting as as the complainants themselves. They're not working on behalf of other people so much. This is political. They saw me as a political pawn that they needed to attack. They're not very. I mean, you just listen to Burrow talk about how he gets upset and slighted and offended by people on the news. He talks about how cameras pick that up, and that he's talking about his own personal vendetta against the public. I mean, yeah, he kind of looks like a guy who could get upset again on easily, offended easily. I mean, he clearly talks about it. He looks like the type of guy that would do it. If you study Chinese face reading, you kind of see they have the shorter upper lip. That's just a part. It's a part of their natural personality. It's not something he learns to get over. It's something that's just a part of his personality. All right, and then complete incompetence up to level 5, just showing a lack of knowledge of the law. And you can read that. Kentucky's not a stop and ID state. I was arrested for that. Well, labeled as trespassing, but you know, that's a weak case that they're trying to really bring out as a strong case. Working hard at that. They don't know what the difference is between a parked car and a valid traffic stop. That really seems important to me. They're pulling over parked cars and treating parked cars like they're traffic stops. Why don't we? Are they also like setting up roadblocks too? I mean, roadblocks is the next thing on that. With that level, it's practically like a roadblock, treating parked cars like they're traffic stops. Weldon turned on his body cam 5 minutes too late. That's just stupid. That's pretty much going against their body cam policies. They heard my name spoken over the radio, continued to demand my name. So they couldn't mute their radios. They had their radios on blast. I could hear the responses from the desk, the radio desk, and I mean, you know, they're like acting like the radio, the dispatcher was silenced. Like they were acting like I shouldn't have been able to hear the dispatcher, and I could. You know, it's total incompetence. I could hear the dispatcher. All right, I was like, yeah, that's me. You know, it's my car. But still, they act as they do out of incompetence.